Well, Mexico and the United States earlier today reached a one-month agreement to stave off President Trump's proposed tariffs and looming trade war. The 25% tariff on Mexico was set to go into effect Tuesday. The threat of it alone sent stocks tumbling this morning. President Trump on Saturday signed 25% trade penalties against Mexico and Canada, along with a 10% tariff on goods from China. The other two are still in place for now. Trump has repeatedly said tariffs would incentivize those countries to clamp down on the flow of migrants and fentanyl traveling from their borders into the U.S. Under the new agreement with Mexico, the country did agree to reinforce its northern border with 10,000 members of the National Guard to prevent drug trafficking. But economists say Americans should brace for the impact of the other tariffs. The president admitted on social media this weekend his decision could cause, quote, some pain. But what exactly will that look like for consumers? Parul Jain is an economics professor at Rutgers Business School and helps explain. Thanks so much for lending your insight on this. First and foremost, how do tariffs work? I mean, the president has said it won't increase costs for American consumers, but is that true? How do these in practice actually work?
Not at all. Actually, they're going to raise the cost for producers who will be paying the tariff. And in most instances, the tariff is passed on directly to the consumer wherever possible. So some producers may absorb the price increase, but others will just go ahead and pass it along. And not only that, it's also an excuse for other producers, domestic producers, to raise their prices as well. So we're talking about a rather messy situation in which the consumer is definitely going to be subject to much higher prices than what we've seen before.
What types of products might we see the prices increase? And I'm thinking, of course, Mexico, Canada, and China are big trade partners with the U.S.
Yes, in fact, they're the major trade partners. And what we're going to see is definitely rising prices for produce. And although, as you mentioned, Mexican tariffs have been delayed by a month, but that's just postponing the day of reckoning. And in fact, a lot of the products that are coming from Mexico, such as, from anything from avocados to other produce to cars, auto parts, etc., they're all going to go up in price. And with respect to Canada, although it's supposed to be 10% for crude oil, a lot of the production processes are dependent on Canadian oil. So consequently, we can expect to see at least 25-cent increase at the gas pump from this alone. And with respect to other products, yes, housing costs are going to go up, lumber costs, so a lot of different product lines are going to be quite severely affected. And obviously, we don't know all of the answers yet because we don't know the extent of retaliation.
Sure.
Although Canada has said that they will have retaliatory tariffs. So we're talking about considerable bigger impact. And it could definitely, it's going to shrink world trade as a consequence if the tariffs are as expected, if they're imposed on Europe as well.
I mean, but does the president have a point when he says the U.S. has been getting ripped off? We have a trade deficit in goods of over $1 trillion. We haven't been making good deals. Does he have a point there?
I don't think so, because of the simple reason that, you and I, we buy our products, where we think, what products we like. So it's kind of like free trade. And so are they really ripping us off, or they're supplying U.S. consumers with cheaper products that we like? And so as a result of which, they're ready to finance the trade deficit because the dollar is in fact the reserve currency, and they're happy to accumulate those dollars. So the question is that, this is like a loan of sorts to U.S. consumers at different points of time. And hence, the question of getting ripped off doesn't really exist in our vocabulary. And in fact, all economists do in fact prefer free and unfettered trade. Now, there are some other issues that, the Trump administration wants to address. They want to increase manufacturing activity, or local production. And so the perception is that if we see higher prices for imported goods, we start switching over to domestic products. But as I said, there's going to be a price increase even for domestic products, because typically we have seen that domestic producers raise their price right alongside foreign foreign supplies.
So, Parul, in a financial sense, how much would this cost the average household?
The average household is going to get really hit, because the cost of products, it's going to affect us by about $1,000 per year, perhaps even more. And of course, imported cars are going to cost upwards of $3,000. So we're looking at substantial hit to our budgets. And additionally, with inflation ratcheting up across for all different product lines, my expectation is 3.5% rates of inflation. Then that is going to hit our budgets even more.
Parul Jain is a finance and economics professor at Rutgers Business School. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.